allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, and just to remind everybody that we are, Norton Media is here recording. If anybody else is recording, we just need to know that. All right, so we'll start with the minutes. It's been a while since I've done that, so it might be a little,
Like riding a bike.
So did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Anybody have any comments, concerns? All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 13th open session meeting?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then same thing with the executive session minutes, any, nothing? Okay, motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, warrants, I reviewed and approved the following school expense and school payroll warrants. School expense warrants on April 13th, 2023, $570,404.17. School payroll warrant from April 6th, 2023, $1,113,771.49. I wish to enter them into public record. Student rep update.
So Malia's not here. Malia's not feeling well tonight. So for the high school, we have a couple busy weeks coming up. Yesterday was the amazing art show with art from almost all students displayed in the cafeteria. Today was Dia de Churro and French Trivia Day, where students completed world language trivia in order to earn a churro or a pâte de crème for answering the trivia questions in the target language. Also, this afternoon was the National Honor Society Bikeathon. Tomorrow morning will be an appreciation breakfast for the class of 2023. Saturday will be the craft fair that has been moved inside due to the weather. It will feature 80 vendors and proceeds benefit the Science Honor Society. Also, Saturday night will be an Honor Society social at the high school from 6 to 9. Not too fun, but AP testing will be taking place at the high school over the next 2 weeks. And then next week is the musical, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then for the Yale, their new playground, which was presented at the school committee meeting last week, was installed over break. The kids were on it and loving it starting on Monday. The kids have been a flutter to be all over the new structures. It has been fantastic. To our 5th grade, who helped in raising so much of the funds the past year, plus Boosterthon fun runs to get these last 2 months to see the realization of their work is phenomenal. It is the first step in many new pieces we hope to upgrade the new playground. Again, a huge thank you to the Hay PTO, our families and community members who gave so much these past couple of years, and to our students who helped as well. Between the turf field, new hoop nets, and now the new playground, the Yale's play areas are looking great. And then from the middle school, the Day of Awareness Field Day coming up on May 18th, hoping for great weather. The Day of Awesomeness features numerous inflatable obstacles and challenges on the front lawn of NMS. In addition, a Kuna ice truck comes and there is a DJ. We also have numerous field trips coming up for all grade levels and teams over the next 6 weeks. JCS is getting ready for their adventure days at the Norton Outdoor Center next week. They are fortunate to be right next door, so they will be walking over for a 4-hour experience for all students K through 3. Couldn't do it without a great set of parent volunteers. The JCS raised over $300 for sea turtle nest conservation programs over the last few weeks. They are excited to see the gift protect at least one nest per grade, pre-K through 3rd. That's all I have for you guys.
Great, thank you. Anybody have anything? Great, thanks so much. All right, so next we have presentation and vote on the Norton High School April 2024 Music Department trip to New York City. Ms. Wright?
Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
So for those who don't know me, my name is Alexandra Wright, and I'm the current choral director at Norton High School. And on behalf of the music department at NHS, I am requesting approval for an out-of-state field trip, which includes a 3-night stay in New York City, April 25th through 28th of 2024. The numbers and information that you have in the school committee packet this evening are estimations by the organization World Strides. I have chosen to work with this organization because they've worked with schools for over 50 years, and as a newer teacher / a teacher who has never done an out-of-state / overnight field trip before, I find it is very important to do it with people who have done it before and they know what they're doing. They provide insurance, not that I hope to use any medical insurance while we are there. The trip cost is also included in the packet, which encompasses hotel, the festival admission, and extra activities for students to do while they're in the city. While we're there, we're going to be performing in a heritage festival, which is a festival where they compete and they get adjudicated by judges who know what they're doing in a real world context, which is awesome. The total cost of the trip with the activities that World Strides has estimated is $38,397 for an estimation of 34 people, including chaperones, which works out to be about $1,164 per student, with one person being free. But anyone who's been in New York City for 3 nights, that's actually quite a bargain. But this number may change due to student enrollments next year. In that money, the schedule of events for the field trip includes the festival, workshops from experts in the field, city tours, and a Broadway show. Once the trip is approved, I can move forward to customize the trip, which may adjust the cost, but it's probably going to be around that amount. The music festival would allow students to test their abilities as musicians by performing for an adjudicator who is an expert in their field. And the end of this trip will actually include a dinner cruise with an awards ceremony. In terms of fundraising, I'm currently drafting a grant proposal for the Max and Victoria Dreyfus Foundation, who support art programs where a little money goes a long way, which is great. Transportation is like a huge cost right now, so if I get approved for that grant, it pretty much covers transportation, which is great. And then we also have smaller fundraisers throughout the year, which will lower the cost. I kind of have big dreams to get this cost like really lowered so that students who aren't as financially wealthy don't feel like they have to say no to this awesome opportunity. I am committed to giving students a musical education with performance opportunities, cultural enrichment, and industry exposure, and I think that this trip would fulfill all of those needs, and I really thank you for your time and considering this proposal.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Comments?
I'm surprised my almost 17-year-old hasn't said she needs $1,200.
It sounds like a great trip.
I'll pay now.
Yeah. It sounds like a good trip.
Recommendations to approve their out-of-state trip to New York for the music department at AHS.
So do we have a motion to approve the Norton High School April 2024 music department trip to New York City?
So moved. Refresh my memory. We approve out of state, not in state,
Correct.
right? All right. Do we-
Out of state or overnight?
Or overnight, okay, okay. So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Have fun.
Have fun.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, so next is the second reading and vote on expense reimbursements policy. Dr. Bayal?
Thank you. This is the second reading on the expense reimbursement. There were no changes from the last time unless there's any further changes. We're recommending that the expense reimbursement be voted tonight.
Anybody have any comments, concerns?
Just one question. It says in the third paragraph, I guess, staff travel requests that exceed budgetary limits. Is that for us or for you guys?
That's for us.
What is that limit?
It's by contract.
Okay.
Yep. It's either by contract or by, let's say if it was a teacher, it'd be by PD. We would be putting it into that.
I think that was it for me.
Anyone else? All right, do we have a motion to approve the expense reimbursement policy as written?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading of advertising at the athletic complex and fields.
Yeah, so we don't have a specific policy that allows for us to do something around that athletic complex or the fields. So this puts in play, it leaves open the school committee setting the making up the rates for such advertising, and then it follows other policies in terms of our district policies on everything to do with drugs, alcohol, tobacco, obscene language, and all that stuff.
Okay. Anyone have any questions, comments on this?
The only thing I would add, just because it says illegal drugs, we should probably add something in there about marijuana as well.
Well, on school grounds, it's considered
Good.
it's considered illegal anyways.
Works for me. That was it.
Anybody else?
Where do we get this from, the wording?
From another district, it was a cut and paste.
I'm not saying it's a deal breaker for me, but the section 4, the third from the bottom, be associated with any company or individual whose actions are inconsistent with the district's mission and goals or community values. That seems really weirdly vague to me. And it sounds like what we're saying is we're not gonna advertise for people we don't like.
I guess you could read it that way. You do have a mission, you do have goals as a district. They're pretty clear, they're written.
Yeah, I don't know,
If you can think of a better word, let me know. Let us know, so we could make the change for the second reading when you do take the vote. I can ask around on your behalf as well and see if there are others that
Yeah,
have clear
'cause-
language.
Because if ABC company wants to advertise with us and one of their employees has a post on Facebook or whatever the kids are using these days that we don't like, I mean, are we saying, okay, well, this person associated with that company that doesn't agree with our values, and so therefore we're not gonna allow them to advertise? It just seems overly broad to me, like it's,
I'll see if I can find.
it's not a deal breaker for me, but I just,
Makes sense.
I'm a little less comfortable with it than I am everything else in there.
So if it said a company or individuals who have to be aligned to the district mission and goals, because it would be the company that's providing you the funding for the signage, not the individual. I mean, we have plenty of individuals that work in a company who have a record.
Maybe
That
strike,
doesn't mean-
or maybe just strike or individual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We
That's,
don't want
yeah,
this.
that's good, I think.
Like if
Because if
DraftKings
it-
comes in, I don't know if we want to have DraftKings on there.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
DraftKings, no offense to them, but, we don't necessarily want to have a gambling site as an advertiser.
Okay.
They do advertise on it every day now, so.
You're there on the outside.
So that would be a motion to strike the word delete.
Well, are we
Or the
voting
word
tonight
delete.
or-
Individual.
No, the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll make the change, bring it clean.
Okay. Does everybody generally agree with that?
Yeah, should we,
Yeah.
there's more.
Nick, do you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree with that, yes. Should we look at tackling what the rates are going to be for next meeting?
That's a good question. So one of the things we're trying to figure out is with the athletic complex, if you see the fencing, you're looking pretty much at a 4x4 or probably a 4x6 because they're 4 foot tall, or you're looking at something you could fill in more and you could have them be, more like 2x4, and so you could fit more on those because once they're on there, it's viewed from everywhere. I mean, especially any of the ones that are on the roads, the roadside, the entryway side. And then the real question that we're gonna have to address is going to be, how long are those there for? Is it a 5-year? The second part is, are you charging them upfront for making it and then the donation? So if you're charging $500 and one costs $150 to make, you're making $350. So how long is that? That's good for 5 years. So 5 years from now, it stays up for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, you say if you'd like to keep it up there, you have to make your donation again, or whatever the protocol. So we're gonna work on some of that.
Why would we pay for the sign?
No, we wouldn't. That's all up to you.
Yeah, I would say we shouldn't, because general wear and tear, vandalism, et cetera, like, I don't have to be on the hook for replacing a sign because somebody breaks it,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 500 to 350 goes to zero and then negative really quickly, and that's.
Yeah, there's also the potential that for the winter months they're taken down, because we have harsh winters and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because these would be, clipped on in most cases. So we'll come back with you with some options. And Nick, I'll try to work to see if we can come back with some rates.
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
that'd be a good idea, to just kind of nail this all down at the
Okay.
same time, if we can.
We'll do.
Maybe on the rates, we can do something like, because it's a 4-foot high fence, we can do, you have a choice of either a 2 or a 4 foot, and then it's per linear foot
Right.
running
Yep.
across.
Yep.
If you want a 10-foot sign, then it's 10 linear feet.
Yeah, and this would encompass your entire complex and fields. So other fields that other places could do it, you could do it as well.
Yeah. I always think too, it's always a good option to have levels of sponsorship.
Yeah,
So
gold,
you could do like a
gold, silver, bronze.
Exactly. It's always good because it kind of gives the smaller businesses a chance, but yet some of the bigger businesses in town might do the bigger sponsors hopefully.
Joe, are we following the agenda or the,
The agenda so
Okay.
far,
all
yeah.
right. Well, the packet was,
Yeah.
wellness was next, all right. So discussion and vote on naming of multipurpose fields.
Yeah, Madam Chair, as you know, as the committee I think knows in general, we've talked a lot about the naming of the athletic complex, but when you really look at it, the athletic complex now has its own Adams Field, which has been there for a long time. We have the track coming up, the baseball field there is named, and now we have the potential for the multipurpose field to be appropriately named. So internally, the discussions we've had is we have a really solid relationship with the Norton veterans. Specifically, and I say Norton veterans meaning the council here in town. And so there's been a lot of discussion, instead of going after a name, to actually make a connection between our veterans and the school system, of which you all know during Memorial Days and all the different events that take place. We have a pretty, at least in my time here, we've had a very good relationship. And it's a community that really sets itself supporting veterans, as you all know. So that's the recommendation. Of course, you could open it up for other considerations as well.
I love the idea.
No issue with it.
Yep, anybody have anything?
My only thing is if we're gonna get into sponsorships and stuff, should we be looking at something in terms of naming the field? In terms of monetary value
Monetizing it.
at some point? And I know that's horrible to say about veterans, and I'm okay to, no, but I'm legit okay with going veterans route, but I'm thinking here that if we're gonna be selling spots all over this place, and then all of a sudden we're just gonna name it veteran, like, and then what's the name, because that's always an interesting one, especially when you have a multi-athletic complex with other fields that are already named. So I don't know, you know, and what, are we doing the signage, what does that kind of all look like, I think?
I mean, I'm the last person who will turn away money to the schools, obviously. With respect to naming the field, I'm not sure if we're gonna get enough money there to move the needle.
That's what
Yeah,
I was
like,
thinking, yeah.
Like, I don't think Coca-Cola's coming in, or, you know,
No, and
So-and-so.com.
one of the things that happens with fields is they are typically connected to a person, a coach that's been
Yeah.
around for a long time. You just did it recently with Coach Taylor. We've done it with a room upstairs in the gym. You have your other gym, your Adams Field, your
Guidance.
student services area at the high school. So this kind of goes in a different direction. It just takes all of those that have served and reside in the community, those that have been unfortunately lost during all those.
so the end of my thought process was, if it's not gonna really move the needle, I'd actually rather name it after the veterans and, I don't know, garner some goodwill there. I
Right.
think the goodwill's probably worth more than we're gonna get from selling the naming rights, quite honestly.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a price
Yeah.
on that.
And even if there was, I'm not sure we're gonna meet it. I could be wildly
Yeah.
misunderstanding the value of naming our field, but I don't think it's gonna be that high. I think it might be.
Yeah, no, I was more, I think I came off the wrong way here, I think like signage wise, if we're gonna put up a sign, and the sign's gonna cost us $2,500, are we paying for that? Should we be like, hey, reach out to the veterans and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do, would you know what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah,
aspect of it too.
typically it's done through our budget process.
Okay.
That's the way, it's an honor, it's on behalf of us, so we absorb.
So we would do it, okay.
Yeah, we would do
Okay.
it. One of the things too about the multi-purpose field that's very different is that's soccer, boys and girls. That's baseball, that's softball, that's lacrosse, boys and girls. So, you know, it takes away this discussion on which is the best coach to get the name down the road.
Yeah.
By just calling it Norton Veterans Field, or, you know,
I'll bet you if, and not necessarily by any means that this is done, but I'll bet you if, you know, it's not inconceivable that you would get donations from people too on.
Yeah, I think
Right,
it was, yeah.
that's- Yeah, I would think so too.
I'd actually be surprised.
Yeah,
So,
and there might be some businesses who want to contribute
Correct.
yeah.
to that as well,
Right.
so.
That was kind of my thinking here, is
Yeah.
if we could kind of, you know, those signs can get very expensive as we all
Right.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's businesses who would want to help out. Anything else on that? All right, so do we have a motion to approve the naming of the multipurpose field located between the Henry A. Yell Elementary School and Norton High School to the Norton Veterans Memorial Field.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hold on, sorry. Norton Veterans, are we naming a field or are we naming an athletic complex?
It's the field.
We're just doing the field.
Right,
Got it.
because the complex, I think, is something you could think about later, but it would be that multi-purpose field area.
Just the one field.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jerry.
So do we have to start again?
Yes.
No, just change
Okay.
the motion.
Motions.
Yeah.
I said it that way though?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we had a motion and a second, so all those in favor?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll reach out to the.
We'll find out in 2 weeks that we had an illegal vote somehow.
Seriously, it'll be my fault somehow. Okay, discussion and vote on Little Lance's preschool tuition increase. Christine?
Yep, so we are looking to propose an increase to the Little Lens preschool tuition for next school year. We're thinking right now 5% for school year 24 and another 5% in school year 25. We haven't had an increase since January 2019 for the 1920 school year. And currently we have 2 full-time teachers and 2 paras for next year that will be paid out of this account. We also have an increase to an additional classroom there, as well as a teacher.
Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Obviously this affects my children, or this one of them.
I'm in the school committee.
Well, the other 2 are good now, but the youngest is going through, God bless those teachers. I completely agree with the increase. My one concern is we've already gotten paperwork and our deposit has already been due. So we already paid on April 14th, our deposit, our acceptance letter was April 7th. So I'm a little worried in terms of people who think they're already locked in for the price from fiscal year 23 to increase it now.
I believe
So-
on the paperwork that you received, it said, there was an asterisk that said prices may change for
Okay.
this upcoming year.
Right.
For the deposit, we will adjust that for the monthly payments for the next year.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I think that was it on my
And one of the things that's really, really important is this is a fantastic program. You want to have a competitive price. You don't want to be overpriced. You don't want to be under, because you're getting to the point now, like, for example, we added since 2019, for this year, we added another classroom space, more supports. That's all being absorbed by, the operating budget. So this is an offset. The only children that pay are the peer models, as you know. This is we're going to have our colleagues here after I'm gone, but in the very near future, we're going to have some dynamic conversations about space in this program, just to let you know.
Okay.
So you're voting on a 2-year increase, which means for next year, it's already set.
Can we just talk about one other thing too? And I know this probably has more to do with like Anne-Marie Baker and whatnot, but is there a reason why we start preschool at 8:30? Is it just because of buses and traffic?
It's all about that.
Okay.
It's all about.
Because I've heard from some parents that like they run into the issue of trying to get their youngest into the preschool and then they're waiting around for the extra 35 minutes or so, whatever, so. But that kind of makes sense, obviously, based on the.
It's all to do with that because of the number of the amount of transportation that we're trying to get in and out. We actually pay our nurse a stipend every year out of the contract to be there earlier because she's there for an earlier work day. But it's something that, as I said earlier, when you have these dynamic conversations, could actually be taken care of down the road.
Yeah. It's a great program, by the way.
Really
I
nice.
love it.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? No? Is there a motion to approve the Little Lancers preschool tuition increase as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I love it that you second that one, Nick. So when you get home, what, you just raised my prices again?
Notice I usually motion things.
Yeah.
I did motion.
I know,
I wanted
because
to
you
motion
motion.
now.
Well, you always say, Dinesh, that the fact of the matter is when you sit in that seat,
That's right.
you end up,
Yeah.
you're
Is this the
hurting
first time
yourselves
you've had
more
to
than you
vote to-
do it.
That's honestly, I think my first second ever.
No, but is this the first time you've had to vote yourself to pay more money?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll tell you what, I've been doing it for 15 years, and it doesn't get any easier.
All right, discussion and vote on school meal prices.
So we are recommending to, another increase, to increase 25 cents, price increase to all school meals for school year 23-24. Though we currently have free meals due to the Universal School Meals Program, we're praying for this to not be fully funded next year. The increased prices will get us closer to the current reimbursement rate from the state. This will help offset the sudden shortfall we could see in the food service account due to the increase in labor and food prices, as well as there would be expected lower participation if it wasn't free. The current prices that we have now are those also set in school year 2019-2020, and we haven't had an increase in.
So do we expect this not to pass?
What?
Is that why we're voting this?
No.
Or are we supporting it as a safety measure?
No, so the free meals, the state free meals works two ways. It's a really interesting story. So every student goes through the line and now has to still enter their code, and for the purposes of other free items, transportation or let's say sports or anything else that they're getting, they're still going through that process of quote being a free or reduced student. Then what the state does is the state via the feds, they calculate, and you have to be, because the reimbursement rates are always higher than what you charge locally. If that reimbursement gets too expanded, then they nail you for it. They say basically now, so we didn't have it here, but in my last district, we had a 50-cent increase in 1 year because we were 75 cents off. Then the third part becomes, this will help on the total amount that we collect, offsetting the increases of everything to do with labor costs, and food costs. So that's how it works. So free, but through a process.
Right. So I guess I'm confused as to, so right now, the Universal Free Meals Program for students, spring was signed into law as part of the governor's supplemental budget. Has to go to the House and Senate.
Right.
If it goes to the House and Senate and passes, then the increase is not relevant to the free lunches, right?
So
Or is it that's what we're getting reimbursed, is the 25
so
cents?
our calculation goes to every single different district differently. If one district is 375 and we're 350, they're still charging, quote, through the process, the 375, potentially getting a supplemental for a reimbursement for the free and reduced kids. But the regular general education student that is not, or special education student who's not on free or reduced lunch, we're getting this amount only. The state is giving us that amount versus all of the data that's entered for every single student. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that our reimbursement doesn't fall to the point where we're losing money on the reimbursement.
Okay.
We are getting our reimbursement. And one of the, it's called, we always call it internally the 10-cent rule, because when you get audited, they're like, you're supposed to be within 10 cents of your reimbursements, because let's say the reimbursement's $4.25. I mean, during COVID, the reimbursement was actually quite high. If they were at $4 and we're at $3.25 during the audit, which happens every so often, you get nailed on it. So in this particular case, this just keeps us aligned by going up the 25 cents. And it's also better to go up 25 cents every couple of years than it is to go up 75 cents every year, because to try to play catch up. Some of us in this room might remember hot lunches for 35 cents back in the day.
Not that cheap.
Maybe just you, Joe.
Just
So
chug
here's
that
a
whole
question
thing.
for you.
Yeah.
So what happens if, let's just say that a student wants two lunches? So they get one is free, and then do they pay
Yes.
this? Yeah.
And if they want something that's not considered within the program, then they have to pay for it, out of pocket. I see that pretty regularly out of my household.
I'm afraid for my tally, because my son tells me that he has 2 lunches every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is also
Good
going
to
to be
know.
He's a grown boy.
there's also going to be a
Good to know.
significant change to meals for 25, 26, 27, and 28. They're doing it slowly in terms of the Department of Agriculture and how big the meals are, how much saturated fat, how much this and that, so on and so forth. They're increasing protein, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
They're knocking down saturated fats. But they're doing it piecemeal, which is not what happened. If you remember, the Obama administration came in and just blanket did it. This administration has decided to say, okay, we kind of learned a lesson there. We're just going to piecemeal this over time.
Okay.
Does require a vote.
Any other questions? All right, so is there, a motion to approve new school prices for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? It's a big night for you, Nick. Huge night for you. All right, vote to approve Norton Teachers Association contract memorandum of agreement.
So this was the Labor Management Committee, which was approved by both sides to get through. A lot of this you will see is the tic-tacking of crossing Ts and dotting Is. There was one particular area of the coaches' salaries that was wrong in the signed contract, so we changed that to make it right. I apologize to the coaches for thinking it was one and it's something else, but it is what it is. The dues deduction, I'll just go through it in terms of the seven. The first one, that's always been in the contract, cut and paste, it didn't happen, but it was part of the agreement. The salary and wages, I just noted. The sick leave bank, we had to create one because we had to bring the two groups together. So instead of doing it during bargaining negotiations, we did it during this section. The unpaid leaves, the reimbursement for courses, there was one particular line that was changed in red, as you see there. The current sub rate for the duration of the assignment on Article 19, that just makes it easier for us because it would say $85 because it was the sub rate, or 90. Now whatever the sub rate is, what they get, you don't have to go back and revoke the contract. Dues deductions is a communication of an August 1st date, which is actually good for all of us. The Joint Labor Management Committee, I have to tell you, this has been a very fruitful thing because it's kept us just working. Just to let you know, we were meeting every Monday during the height of the pandemic, virtually, or Tuesday, whatever day of the week, and then we moved it to bi-weekly, and we literally just had our last bi-weekly meetings in February, just to try to get here, because everybody's working in language. And then the new article on the job sharing, we had a discussion about that. We have put it in here as a recommendation from the two sides. It is under, a lot of it is under management rights in terms of the language that's used, because as you can see, it's very open language, which gives us the opportunity, and management doesn't have to do it. If we decide that in certain areas it's not a good idea, we don't have to, we're not bound to have to do it. And then lastly, the stipends that were not in Appendix C that we have been paying through the years, but they just weren't noted in there, were added. And we still have some others that we're going to be working on in the near future. In particular, there's about one or two of them, if I remember correctly, that we want to try to take care of. The union is meeting on Monday, I believe, to vote on as well. Everybody's trying to get this done so we can rewrite the contract and get it printed out.
Anybody have anything? All right. So is there a motion to approve the Norton Teachers Association contract memorandum of agreement as presented?
So moved.
Oh, is there a second? I don't even know who so moved that, but Carolyn's gonna have to second. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
All right, vote to, so we have to skip 11, right?
Item 11 is being tabled, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And just as a bit of information, we're still going through a legal process on that. That's the reason.
All right, FY24 budget update.
Just give you a quick update. I went to a last minute FinCom meeting last night. Two outcomes. The easiest one for you to know, the supplemental budget of $101,000 did go through as a support, so it's already been voted on, unless they decide to make a change, which they have the right to. The special education stabilization count was 10-0 no, not to do it. And their argument is we need to build up the regular stabilization account to the minimum 5% first and foremost, and then potentially consider it later.
They understand that they're not beholden to funding, right?
That is
I mean,
correct. That was part of the discussion last night.
Very well laid out.
Yeah.
I don't understand what whatever.
Yeah.
So, and then the third part was, I presented the budget again in terms of what this really means. The 2% increase would mean, the $666,000 would mean that less than 50% of the mandated budget would be funded, leaving the 707 left in that. You have to add that to the 1.6 general education budget, creating a negative budget to us of $2.3 million. That is a big bullet to take because that is going to get you into some significant staff cuts. It appears, pending you folks agreeing, that a one-time $707,550 would be taken out of stabilization as part of our total, meaning that we would get in total $1,374,195, or about 4%, which makes this a lot better for us. In return, the school committee understands that we're going to have to do what we can, except for things like move-ins and emergencies. We wouldn't be going to the town meeting for further funding at this time. We would leave it for the potential
fall.
supplemental budget in the spring.
Right.
And most of our requests, as you folks know, at the fall town meeting are directly related to special education, or what we've done the last 3 fiscal years is the transportation. So what this does is it does 2 things. The first one is, if in fact it goes through, you have to fund your special education ELL mandates. I mean, you're opening yourselves up for a lot of negativity if you don't. So it at least gets us there. Now, we still have an issue of $1.6 million in general education that we have to figure out. My job is, once FinCom votes that this coming Monday, and I communicate with Mike Units that you guys are good with this, then Tuesday, I begin the process of line iteming our budget all over the place. So we'll start with the typical expense lines, we'll start with contractual services, any of those things outside of non-mandates. Then we'll move to, we'll have, I'm sure, discussions on fees with you folks at some point. We will take more money from any of the circuit breaker specialized accounts and all of that stuff. We'll take some type of a hit in technology. Then, and after all of that, what's left would then mean staffing. We will then start with non-teaching staff, so that would be all the support staff, first and foremost. That would include 0 paraprofessionals, because all our paraprofessionals are aligned to mandates. So we would be looking at general education areas. So eating up any further retirement notices, between now and town meeting and after town meeting, sometimes we even get those, or those that are leaving in October, November, we're not fully funding them for the year, potentially not backfilling a position of retirement. All of those things we have to go through. I would tell you that my priority would be not to touch K-3 at all, as much as possible. Because that's where we have some of the ideas we've been working on the last couple of years, i.e. the interventionist program that we've really implemented to try to get kids early on. We have some data that's showing that. So programmatically, it would become in 4 to 12, unless it's a gaping situation in K-3 that we could take the cut. In 4 to 12, then it would start with class sizes and what happens there. And of course, the younger grades benefit from that. But the idea is we want to hit the minimal amount of actual classroom staff as possible. That's the goal. So we're gonna have some difficult conversations about the other stuff. We've done this before. Nick wasn't on, but the 3 of you were. And that's when we cut, if you remember, an entire department, the food services department, privatized it and asked for the $123,000 in savings in medical healthcare. The budget in the fall should be, the fall town meeting, free cash should be a significant amount. Now, the goal of the 707 that they're giving you now, it would be that the first thing they're doing at that town meeting is they want to move that 707 back into stabilization, and probably because it's going to be a hefty, really good free cash number because of the savings in healthcare, for example. They would move even more, and potentially you could get yourself to your 5% number or higher, and then eventually bring back this stabilization article again. That's one potential that could happen. So that we're not taking consistently from free cash and or the operational budget for all departments these surprises as we got this year for certain tuitions. If that makes sense. So that's the general information. It's a win-win for us. I don't need a vote, I just need your consensus that you're okay with that. The vote would then be at our next meeting that we're going forward with an understanding of this budget at town meeting. Now, town meeting can do anything it wants, right? So that's the body that controls the money and everything at the end of the day. So by then, we will know how many people, what programs, what areas, what line items, so on and so forth are being hit. And then from there, I typically try to give the staff some heads up on, hey, you're gonna hear about 4 teaching positions, or you're gonna hear about X positions or Y positions, and so that people at least have a general gist. And then the first thing we try to do is we try to notify anybody that's gonna be RIFed by June 1st. It's like right after town meeting. That's the reason why town meeting's so important for us in May. Now, last night, the House passed their budget, 56 billion recommendation. We are still working on the Senate and getting $100 per student instead of the $30 per student. It's now at 60. I believe it's going to potentially move to 100. So the difference between that is significant for us. You know, $100 a student brings in about 2.25, 250, let's say 250 for the sake of rounding up, $250,000 versus 60,000. So those would be the kind of monies that for a supplemental budget, you could say, well, we didn't take our Chapter 70 at that time, and we have a hole in special ed, so we should be able to get those funds at the the Springtown meeting of May of '24. So that's the general update. This is a deal breaker for us, because if you think about it, if you're cutting a few folks now, whatever that number is going to be, 707 means probably all more folks. If you take 60,000 on average per into 707, there's another 11, 12 bodies that you have to find somewhere to cut. It's not a whole lot of fun. The other thing what we're trying to do between our budget and all of this is, because we're the biggest employer, we want to make sure that the dynamics of unemployment are taken care of. We don't want the town to have to find $450,000 for, you know, X number of employees being not finding another job, because anybody unemployed starts collecting the very day. So if our last day is the 15th, they can start collecting on the 16th, start filing with the state, and start getting a check thereafter throughout the summer, which then has to come from the town coffers, which typically we don't have that type of money in the unemployment line item. So that's the big picture. Better today than it was, believe me. The anxiety level about this budget has been probably the only thing that's been bothering me. But better today, still not great, but we're gonna get creative. How's that?
You always do.
We try.
We've
Try to
been
get
saying for a long time that this was coming, you know, and it's unfortunate that some didn't, you know, pay more attention to this instead of
I
some
think
of
one
the
of
other
the things,
banter that's going on around.
I think one of the things that's really, really important is that by taking care of the mandated budget to the extent that you have it taken care of right now that you know about, you stop that part of the budget from continuing to inflate even more. Because if you have to cut another 707,000 in other areas in order to make sure that another departments are taken care of, all you're doing is creating that hole to be more massive every year. Clearly, the discussion at times, you know, nobody wants to talk about the dirty word override, but again, at some point, something's going to have to give, because the money just isn't going to be there. The nice thing about this budget is down the road, you get some grants that are going away. We're hearing about some other potential grants coming. I don't know how many of those grants, though, are going to be for bodies. I think they're going to be more around infrastructure supports and all of that stuff. That's the big picture.
Good.
All right, so I'm gonna say some stuff, and you might not like it, actually.
Okay.
So with respect to the 700,000, I'm happy to have it. Quite honestly, I think that's what you're supposed to do as a town. You're supposed to put money where you need it. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I'm thankful for it. It's what we're supposed to do as a town, quite frankly. With respect to, I make absolutely no assurances that I will not ask for more money in the fall. I'm not going to do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't know what our situation is going to be in the fall. And second of all, I've said for years that we don't handle our budget the correct way. If there is money that we need, we will put it before the town meeting. And as you said, town meeting has the authority to do what they need to do. If they decide that the schools are the right place to put money, then that's where they're going to put it. it's ridiculous, and I don't like, you know, negotiating with a gun to my head and say, okay, well, you can fill this ridiculous gap in your budget, but you can't come back later. I'm not agreeing to that, quite frankly. And everybody else can, you can outvote me 4-1, I don't care, but I will make absolutely no such assurance that I'm not gonna ask for more money in the fall if we need it. That is a ridiculous thing to do. I know we've done it in the past, I didn't like it then, I don't like it now. And I like it a lot less now because of the absolutely enormous gap in our budget.
I think it's our job, sitting in these seats as well, I mean, we talk about this all the time, the budget, right? I think it's important for the townspeople to understand what we're up against when we come to the fall town meeting. And if things change at that time.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what they want, it's not like we're making this up, right? We're mandated, we have to do it, I'm not gonna get on my knees and thank everybody for giving us the money to cover our mandates, I'm just not. Yeah.
No, what are we doing? I mean, in the fall, if there are 10 things on the list that we need to fund, if schools are the last in everybody's opinion, then so be it.
Right.
But if we're the first, we should at least have the opportunity to make that case. I don't like this at all. I don't like the idea that we're not going to come back. They're already making judgments on what the fall meeting is gonna be and where the priorities are gonna lie. I don't agree with that. And quite frankly, I don't mean this in disrespect to the FinCom, but it's not the FinCom's job to make that decision. It's the town meetings.
Yeah,
I will
I'll
communicate.
step off my soapbox.
anybody else?
I mean, the only thing I would say, and this is probably for a later meeting, but, you know, if we're looking at 12 possible positions, I would do everything we possibly can. And if we need to cut an admin to save a teaching-facing position, I would be in a huge recommendation for that. I would rather cut, and unfortunately, someone's got to absolve those job responsibilities, which sucks, but I would much rather have that conversation, if possible, you know, and if we can save 2 or 3, 4 teachers who, you know, aren't on the chopping block and we have to cut an admin to, typically our admin's making a little bit more money as well, then I would much rather go down that route. The studies are very clear in terms of, you know, teachers and kid success starts in the classroom. You know, it doesn't start in the central office as much as we want it to sometimes.
Those will be your decisions as a school committee. You can cut, it's money, so you take the recommendations and you can make the decisions that you so choose.
I mean, that is by far probably the worst part of what we do, sitting here, having to go through that. It's like you finally make some momentum moving forward and then, you know, this happens and here we are again. We've said it for years, we continue to say it. You know, at some point, Jonah, you and I have talked about this for a lot of years now, probably the 7 years I've sat here, that Norton at some point needs to decide who they want to be. And that's where we're at. You know, honestly, my kid graduates next year and I ride off into the sunset, but people who are getting involved politically may really want to start to talk about these things, because this is going to affect your children.
And I don't want to raise fees again. I don't.
No. We finally got them to a palatable place, you know. All right,
Thank you.
good times. Good times. Now we're gonna go to good times right now, because you guys are here. First reading updated wellness policy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the Wellness Committee, of which I'm one member, I'm going to turn this over to my colleagues. I just wanted to thank all of those that have been involved. I'll have them introduce themselves. I also want to go out of our way to, we had a wellness coach through the state, thanks to Doreen's work. Jennifer Lundy, that I would publicly like to announce for her work in supporting us during this process. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Nunes. Are you up first? You first?
We're going to talk as a group, but I'll go first.
Okay.
My name is Nicole Nunes. I'm the academic coordinator at the high school. Doreen Brown is our chairperson for the committee this year. We also have Bailey, Allison, Carolyn, and me. And Carolyn also served on our committee as well.
Yep, and Joe, as he said, and Tom Higgins couldn't come, Mike Vaccaro, Alexis Klinger, and Maureen, I can never say her last name.
Yes.
Yeah, Maureen S. They couldn't make it tonight.
Just a quick overview. We're going to provide you with the reasoning for the policy, what that means. We'll talk a little bit about the coaching program that we were involved with this year. Some key policy updates, which was very hard to compare to the old policy because it was so out of date. And then the next steps.
We're gonna hand it over to Allison.
Hi everyone, Allison Dragg. I am a parent here in Norton, but also at the American Heart Association, and worked for a number of years on these policies at the statewide level. Both at the federal level as well as at the state level, there's a requirement for every school district to have a wellness policy and to update it fairly regularly, and so that was where Norton was in. So it's really to provide guidance for the school district to establish an environment which promotes kind of student health well-being as well as staff as well. Go to the next slide. So under the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010 is really when the wellness policy requirements were established. We also in 2010 had a statewide requirement as well. That was the same time that we passed the competitive foods law as well in the state. So a number of factors come into play when you're looking at the wellness policy. So it does require anyone that participates in the National School Lunch Program or the School Breakfast Program to apply, to have a wellness policy, and certainly the rule looks to continue to update it, increase it, make it better as it goes on. So this is just the final rule that came under the Healthy Free Hunger Kids Act, and then again that they must, we I think first did it in 2010, and then I think updated I think in 2012, and we hadn't updated I think since 20.
It was 6, 12, and then we tried to do it again in 19, and
yeah. So it's been a while, and there's been a lot of updates needed, and so this group took a lot of time to look through that and make some significant updates. So it really looked at nutrition promotion and education, physical activity, and other kind of school-based activities, including physical education. It really was around making sure we're promoting student wellness and staff wellness, and to look at what were evidence-based strategies, what were we doing, how could we build on those, what could we improve. It looked at making sure we aligned with those standards and guidelines, so that we aligned with both the federal side as well as the state guidelines. Sometimes they differ a little bit, and so we needed to make sure that we had everything aligned with that. That includes the school meal standards, the smart snacks and school nutrition standards, so that's like competitive food, stuff and vending, things like that. We wanted to make sure that we complied with all the standards for food and beverages provided to students, and that's also kind of classroom parties. If you think of that, classroom snacks, there's state laws around that as well. And then also around the policies for food, beverage, and marketing. So basically whatever you can't sell, you shouldn't be able to market in school either. And then we wanted to make sure that we had the description of how everyone was involved. This group was very active as well, and we wanted to make sure we had a good implementation plan and evaluation plan.
Yeah, we also talked about some wellness leadership and public involvement. We want to get more of that next year. This year we kind of just reconvened the committee to get things up to date, but next year we will definitely ask for more public involvement. It goes around triennial assessment, so every 3 years we need to take the WellSat assessment again. We'll go over that in a little bit too. Documentation and public updates.
so I reached out through DESE. They sponsored this, the Massachusetts Wellness Coaching Program. It pairs a committee with a coach, and they provide training and technical assistance for our wellness policy requirements. Ours was Jennifer Lundy, and she's from the John C. Stalker Institute of Food Nutrition at Framingham State. So yeah, when we mentioned this, the policy was created in 2006. We revised it in 2012. We tried to revise it in 2019. And then we revised it now. And school wellness policies are evaluated based on the degree to which they address 67 policy items. These items are what Allison mentioned: nutrition education, standards for USDA child nutrition programs and school meals, nutrition standards for competitive and other foods and beverages, physical education and activity, wellness promotion and marketing, and implementation, evaluation, and communication. So in 2018, school districts around the country were sampled, and the average comprehensive score was 54, and the average strength score was 33, and that's out of 100. We, in our 2012 policy, had a 42 comprehensive and a 4 for strength.
So needless to say, we had to revamp the entire thing to meet the 2016 policies, so it was a little difficult to try and compare and contrast those two documents, but we will just chat about some of the key updates that we made. Yeah.
So under school meals, that all meals will meet the nutritional standards, that there's sustainable food practice and environmentally friendly practices whenever possible. When we look at curriculum and classroom instruction, that there's an approval must be obtained from school administration and health service directors at least 1 month prior to any activity in the classroom. Competitive foods and beverages, all foods served on school grounds during the normal school day will meet nutrition regulations and guidelines. The state has specific guidelines as well as the federal guidelines, so we wanted to make sure that everything met with that. In terms of fundraising, any fundraising during the day had to meet those smart snack standards. We focused around nutrition education, meaning that we will work to kind of teach kids and staff essential healthy eating topics, that there will be curriculum based on fresh and healthy food choices, understanding those food sources. It also teaches around media literacy with an emphasis around food marketing. And then promotion and marketing is using daily announcements to promote menu options, student surveys, and testing opportunities.
I'm Carolyn Kenny. I am the wellness teacher at the LG at the Yale on Thursdays, and I also have 4 kids in the district at 3 different schools. So I'm going to talk about physical activity opportunities. So I work mainly with the younger kids, and the fact that these kids need to move is no secret to anybody, right? So all elementary students need at least 25 to 30 minutes a day of supervised recess. And this also emphasizes that they will have things available to them to use at recess. So we just got new playgrounds at the elementary schools. And we also make sure that there is a bin full of recess materials available for them to promote them running around and not just standing in groups during recess. Physical activity opportunities will be adapted in order to make them accessible for all students. So when the new playgrounds were built, we have accessible pathways into the playgrounds for students who are using mobility assistive devices. And within all of our wellness classes, students who need assistance or modifications, those are definitely put into place for them within all of the classes so that they can be full participants to the greatest extent possible in whatever we're doing. The district will not use physical activity or withhold opportunities for physical activity as punishment. So we don't take away recess because you weren't behaving this morning in class. There's other things that can be done to make sure that kids aren't losing opportunities to be active because of something else that they've done behavior-wise. And also, I don't know that anyone does this, but you can't make someone do push-ups because they were they were talking back to you during class. So not requiring.
Where were you in my day?
Not requiring it or withholding it. Do I have a second slide?
No.
I don't?
No, it's good job.
Yeah, I think
Okay. I was gonna talk about the extracurriculars.
Oh, I mean, please do.
Yeah, okay. So I'll be quick. Also, at the middle and high school levels, making sure that we maintain an adequate interscholastic athletic program, providing students the ability to compete between schools. And then at the younger grades, we don't currently have an intramural program the way that we do at the middle and high school, but looking into possibilities for students to be able to move around before school or after school in a more supervised setting, because we know the impact that it has on their ability to learn in addition to their physical health if they're able to get that craziness out in the morning. Okay, I'm done now.
Definitely. Moving on to health and PE, nothing really changed policy-wise. We kind of just really focused more on the highly qualified certified teachers teaching these subjects, making every effort not to cancel or pull kids out of PE or health, and to provide all students with regular physical education. I'm gonna let Bailey talk about health in a second, but we follow the Shape America, it's our national standards, because our Massachusetts state policies, they haven't been updated since 1999. I know Dr. Baeta worked on the updating of the frameworks, which still hasn't been passed yet. I don't know if there's an update to that.
The update is really that there's a concern that the Board of Education is going to support it. That's what I'm hearing. So going off of public comment hasn't even taken place yet. So it's supposed to be coming out in the spring. I would say this is the spring, so hopefully it does come out.
Move it to the summer.
But I don't see a lot of love for it to happen right away, and there could be yet another group of people that get together to revise it.
Yeah, so the 99 frameworks are just so outdated that we don't even believe them. So we just use our national standards for all health and PE across the district.
So kind of stole what I was going to say there.
Sorry.
Way to go. But through a grant, we were luckily able to purchase health curriculum for grades K through 5. Last June, I wrote middle school curriculum that vertically aligns with high school curriculum to make sure that it does hit K through 12, all students, whether it's integrated into a gen ed classroom or into a actual health specific classroom like we have at the high school. So that does provide flexibility within the schools. It is skill-based, real-world application is huge, and the health curriculum at the high school level aligns with Portrait of the Graduate, and just like Nicole said, the math standards have not been updated since October of 1999. So we do go over the CDC and National Health Education Standards, and that's what we follow, and that's what we added into the policy as well.
All right, this is my slide, as you can tell. So a couple of things have been added. These are ways to promote wellness, so it's a little bit of a different bent on what has happened in the past, but these are things that help promote wellness beyond nutrition and physical activity. So they talk about social emotional climate, things like stress management, emotional regulation, and addressing those needs either through the curriculum or through additional supports. Again, counseling and psychological and social services, how to work within the community, how many counselors we're going to have, and what those roles will look like beyond just focusing, let's say, on college and career, but also on emotional well-being, mental health status, and so forth. We also do health services screenings. So we kind of work together, the counseling and guidance departments along with the nursing and health and wellness departments will work together to do things like SOS, suicide screening. And then there's the screenings that they do for physical well-being and preventative health screenings. So there is a parent opt-out for some of those as well. And then looking at our physical environment, looking at are the buildings themselves well maintained? Are we making sure that nobody's using tobacco and other products during the school day, staff or students? And then obviously employee wellness is a big piece of that. We want to make sure that our staff, both physically and mental health wise, are in a good place and getting the supports they need to again manage their stress and be able to be the best they can in front of our students, and so offering opportunities for them to work on those things are also really important. And then finally, caregiver, working with our families, and as you guys know, we've talked about this before, the number of parents and grandparents that are under stress for a variety of reasons, and how do we help reach out to them. Things like the interface that we have that provides community supports and mental health services. Those things are all built into promoting the general well-being of our students, our staffs, and hopefully our families as well. So that's built into the policy as well.
Just a brief summary.
Yeah. So the next steps, we have been invited by the coaching program to enter tier 2 of the program, which is called Implementing Initiatives. And this continues our relationship with them. It pairs us with it pairs us with a coach who will help us put the policy into action. The coach can facilitate assessment of the implementation of the policy and assist in the development of action plans for the district's wellness goals.
So that's for 2023 in the fall. So we're looking to actually begin the implementation of the wellness policy starting day 1 of school. And then we will then open it up to students and the community members to see who else we can get involved in this committee with. And then moving on, we'll meet about 4 times a year just to keep everything, check in, make sure things are going well, making sure it's being followed. And then we will need another triennial assessment in 3 years. That's it.
Sounds like it looks like a lot of time and effort went into that, so thank you to all of you guys for doing that for our students. It obviously needed to be done, so thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Goal doesn't allow me to ask questions.
Oh, good. If it was that easy.
You volunteered that today.
How did you make that? Because I would have done that a long time ago.
No questions, just a comment. It's super comprehensive. When I read through it at home, I love it. Touches on everything that I would consider super important to my kids as far as being healthy, both physically and emotionally. So great job. Looks really good. I have nothing that I would correct between now and the next reading, quite honestly.
That is something. Oh my gosh. Right?
And nice use of the word triennial.
I know, right?
Most people think it's triannual. It's not. It's triennial. Very good.
I got more of a question, I guess. Can you, I think this is more for my education, maybe for the public as well. Can you give us, like, what is some of the best things we do within PE and health across the district and can be at individual schools as well? And then, like, where are some areas, like, this is great, obviously, in terms of policy and the language and everything else, but like, what do we really see from a parent standpoint of like, what's going really well in our PE and health programs, and what are some areas we vastly need to improve on?
I'd love to tell you about the high school. So at the high school for health, we offer a full year health course for freshmen. Long term, we're looking to cut that in half, offer a semester for freshmen, and then offer another semester for seniors eventually. Once we get all the health curriculum implemented K to 12, then we have some more wiggle room at the high school. For the PE aspect at the high school, we offer many electives. We offer yoga and mindfulness, which there's a walking component to that too. Yoga 2, which is taught by a certified yoga teacher. We offer recreational sports, team sports. We offer fitness and conditioning, which is like a weight training program, and unified physical education for students with and without disabilities. So that's at high school.
What about improvements? I guess if we just go through everybody, we'd probably do.
So I would, honestly, it would be the long-term health. I would look to cut that in half, and then offer it to the seniors as they're heading out to the real world.
I can talk about elementary school. I don't know if we can address middle school or not, but so at the elementary school, what I think we do really well is exposing the kids to as many different types of physical movement and games as we can. That would be number one. We have a lot of different areas covered in the curriculum, from everything as basic as playing tag to doing lacrosse and golf with the 4th and 5th graders and everything you think of in between there. But from a student well-being standpoint, I think that the most important thing that I do in my classes is teach them how to be team players and respectful individuals. Nobody likes to lose. And teaching kids how to lose and how to win and how to be good at something and how to not be good at something, and do that respectfully to everyone else in the classroom. If I only taught that in the year and you forgot how to throw a ball, I don't even know if I would care. Like, yes, you need the coordination, but I think that that's a huge thing that we do, and I think we do it well. The difference in the way that 3rd graders interact with one another compared to how the kindergartners do is huge. And yes, some of that is just maturity and the students getting older, but a lot of it is that we emphasize from day one, you treat one another kindly with respect. You don't make fun of someone who can't do something. You don't brag about something you can do. This is how you be proud of yourself, and this is how you realize that you need improvement. What could we do better? We need time to do health at the elementary level. We don't have it right now, so we bought the curriculum, but there isn't a health class. And another thing that we could do better is that at our 2nd and 3rd grade level, they're the only level in the district that only has PE once a week. And so I couldn't even say take one of the PE classes and make it health, because then they wouldn't be moving at all. So I would say increased movement for grades 2 and 3 and time in the schedule for health for grades K through 5.
I was actually going to kind of say something similar, Karen.
Okay.
In K to 8, the physical education and health curriculums are combined. So the same teacher is teaching them in an integrated way. As Carolyn noted, we just purchased, thanks thanks to Doreen, she got this great grant, and she was able to purchase consistent health materials for our elementary classrooms. Last summer, there was also a group of people that did a ton of work in developing a middle school health curriculum that we just started integrating this year as well. But it's challenging because there isn't a separate class for health. So when the kids come to Bailey at the high school, she really does need that whole year with them in order to kind of make up for lost time that we've had over the years. So our goal is that once we have these consistent materials and consistent resources, and we're really integrating that health curriculum in K-8, we can move towards the half-year program for freshmen and the half-year program for seniors. Many years ago, we did have a separate health program, a health special for our students in K-5 and 6-8, but over the years with budget cuts in different places, they were combined just into physical education. So it's something that we're always talking about. Our second and third graders have it once a week because they used to have world language instead. And so now they have library. So those are things that we are always looking at and trying to figure out ways to increase that time with physical education and movement.
So, wrong year to ask this, but, so the impediment to having a dedicated health program in like the middle school right now is the money, is the funding.
It's the way that the
scheduling and money.
scheduling
Well, that's
is.
my question. Is it
It's both.
scheduling issue
It's
too?
both.
Or is
It's
it-
both. So we used to have 3 physical education / health teachers at the middle school. And several years ago, we cut one of those positions. That person taught health. They moved into a physical education position instead. And the low person on the totem pole was bumped to another position.
Yeah, so, kind of thinking about this, like, and I get it again, bad year, but, yeah, I could make the argument that health in the younger grades
Mhm.
is, correct me if anybody thinks I'm wrong, I know you will. I think that it's as important as it is in high school and probably more important, because I think by the time you get to high school and probably even middle school, you know, with respect to like health and getting people outside and moving them and, you know, you're about to bump into your biggest impediment, your biggest competitor in the world. It's a phone. All of a sudden, no one's doing a damn thing. They're all sitting there on their phones, right? So if you don't get to them early enough, I think you kind of lose, like, you lose the opportunity essentially, right? Like, if kids don't understand about health and wellness early on and kind of incorporate that into their lives, when you get to them at high school, it's great. I mean, I'm glad that we're doing it, but you've kind of put yourself in such a deep hole. I'm not sure you can get out at that point.
So you have to remember the days where physical education happened more than one time a week at the elementary level. And then this thing called MCAS came, and arts and wellness took the biggest hit when the state implemented that. You can look at the history of it. It's when you start to see the drop-off of these health classes and students taking wellness. I mean, having our wellness in some of our grades more than once a week is probably something that other districts don't even have. The goal has always been in K-5 wellness every day, but you just don't have the time. You have to put something to the side in order to be able to do that, you know. And so that's the biggest thing is, you know, the length of your day and everything that you have to do just doesn't mesh.
So when I was a kid, a million years ago, we were able to have that, right? So what you're saying is now that because of the MCAS and because we're focused on that, we're taking time that would have been going to these programs in the past and putting it towards essentially teaching the MCAS, which I think almost everybody here has gone on record to say it's an enormous waste of our time, quite honestly.
The number one hit to middle school and high school schedules when MCAS came out was wellness and the arts programs. It was, and I'll give you a perfect example of one that's even, I don't mean to say this in a bad way, these folks are at least knocking on the door of trying to do something. Take a look at what music has been trying to do for years, and we just can't get anywhere with it. So.
So we have the perfect solution to it.
Right.
We have the absolute perfect solution.
Get rid of it.
It's just whether or not
MCAS, go
Norton
on.
is gonna be, right, we need to start fighting against MCAS. It's done.
I mean,
It's
we have fought
ridiculous.
for what feels like 2 decades of my life to get physical education and health back into schools. And we have not, because of time on learning. It has been an incredible challenge, which is why we're stuck with the 1999 rules that don't make any sense now. You know, and I remember, you know, obviously I'm dating myself, that I had physical education quite a lot, right? And it has been to the detriment of our children, you know, for not having that. I will say that Norton has done an amazing job. They do a lot more than most school districts around physical education and wellness, so they should be applauded for that. There's elementary schools that kids don't even have it once a week.
It's crazy. And to me, Carolyn, what you said about what you're teaching your students, some adults need to relearn.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if we can stop all this, you know, listen, learning is extremely important, but life lessons are important. And unfortunately, our kids are now tied to our phones at elementary school, right? So they miss a lot of the life lessons that need to be taught. So by incorporating more, you know, physical education and wellness and all of that stuff at a young age, maybe, just maybe, we can start to turn things around.
Because if you don't learn those lifelong fitness habits, which you're learning actually in a quality physical education class, not in a sport, right? Because you're
Right.
not, at 30, you're not playing football
Exactly.
or field hockey or soccer, right?
Right.
But you will know that you need to be physically active, and that's taught in a physical education class. That's
Right.
what we're missing, yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, I mean, you talk about when we were kids and the things that we did, we're all smart, educated people, right? And so people are so focused on, you know, the parents, and God help me if you do this, but I'm sorry, they post the MCAS scores on Facebook. Yeah, come on, what are you doing? Stop doing that. Stop. There's so many more lessons that need to be taught to our children, and we are dropping the ball as parents.
I don't even know if my kids pass the MCAS.
I don't even know if the envelope, the envelope goes in a file
Well, they graduate,
folder. But I've been saying this,
You know what they do.
and I know that, Joe, this isn't gonna be your problem anymore, Jen, it's gonna be yours, but I'm tired of the MCAS conversation.
Yeah.
I really, really am. And I bet more districts would be in line with us than people would be
I
aware.
agree.
So I'm just gonna apologize now, because it's,
Nothing would surprise me.
it's been a long, sorry.
Good amount of years.
I feel strongly
Of
that
course
that our
that's
children need more. They need more, and Norton has never been one to follow. We've always been a leading district, and I think that we're getting to the point now where we really need to start changing this up. We really do. We're getting to crisis level with mental health, and I think that you bring back physical education and wellness, and things start to change, not only for our students, but for our families.
And I'd say one of the groups we don't have represented here right now, because they left, and one was sick, but the students themselves, I think, would say that there are a lot of good things that come along with our health and wellness classes. We've talked about that. But what keeps coming up to us is, you know, the students are saying positive mental health, stress management, anxiety management, you know, those kinds of topics. And I think in full credit, these folks try to do the best they can under the circumstances. And one of the really good things that I see happening now too is that we're bringing in folks from the community. So they're very open to, you know, bringing in people who can talk about, you know, those kinds of topics along with the phones and what's safe and what's not safe and social media, all of those things that impact their mental health that honestly none of us probably in the room grew up with the same kind of pressures and the same kinds of issues that creates. And I don't think as adults can really wrap for the students, just that's what they're coming to us asking for. And that's what we're trying to do here.
So I've said it before, and I think it's important to say again, to your point, Benny, that we need to start listening to our students. We need to stop thinking as adults that we have it all figured out, because we don't. We do not know at our ages what it's like to live the way that our students live right now. Under the social media scrutiny, we do not know what it's like to grow up at this time. We don't. So we need to start listening, and we need to start doing it pretty quickly, is my opinion.
So this is the first reading. Next meeting, you'll take your vote. If you have any further changes, you can bring it up at that point. I want to thank the committee and all their work, their expertise, their background, finding a coach for us. I really enjoyed working with this group. It's always been one of my group that I just like listening to, and they always come up with plenty of ideas. I recognize that Ms. Nunes will always tell me what she thinks, which is a good thing. It's a common theme tonight, I guess, even if I don't want to hear it. But I appreciate all of your work very much, and the other members that aren't here tonight, and just so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, other business?
I do just one quick, so we have a little bit of, I gave you the handout. When we did the student attendance, remember we went through the various reads, there was a cutout that wasn't in your vote. Your intention was to put that in there, but when the vote happened, it wasn't in the actual handout. So before you have this section, if a student has more than 5 unexcused absences, acknowledges absences or truancies as defined above, from school or any other class in a quarter, then the student will be eligible for a pass-fail grade in any such classes for that quarter. That entire section was left off of your vote. And that wasn't purposely, it's just because, if you remember, we went through 3 different meetings. So Ethan received a question about that, the changes had been made, but this particular section was left out on the final read that you had previously wanted to approve.
Okay,
So I just need a motion and a vote so I can stick it in there.
okay. So does anybody have anything else on this, or we're?
This might be a very dumb question. What if someone has a 62?
In terms of,
This says these grades will be represented as a pass or a fail. So if they're, as long as you have a 60 or above, they're
I
passing.
think it's 65 down to 59 is a fail.
it's a
Is that right?
65
See,
pass.
that's my point, yeah.
So if they have a 62, it would be considered a pass because it's above the 59.
So shouldn't that
So
say
it
pass
equates,
60?
it equates to a 65 when it's a passing grade.
Even if it was a 62?
Even if it was a 62, it would equate to a 65.
Why wouldn't it just be 60?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's how I'm reading
It's
it.
been our practice of, the idea is that
Great question.
you gotta remember, our grades are flipped
Sure,
into,
you just said how.
Our grades are-
I know, I hear what you're saying.
our grades are flipped, I think Vinnie's still here, our grades are flipped to letter grades,
Right.
So-
Letter grades have ranges.
I
and
was
letter
gonna say
grades
it's a
have
range.
ranges.
Yeah.
And those kinds of scales.
So that's the reason.
And
That's
Okay,
the-
so
so-
if somebody has 70, they pass.
No, they would get a grade.
They would get their grade.
They would get their grade, okay.
Yes.
If they had a 65,
So if they had a 70, but they have 5 unexcused absences.
They would get a P.
they would have a P, the pass.
They would move to pass.
If they had a 63, they would get a,
And
They would still get a
5
pass.
excused absences.
Right.
They would get a pass.
And the idea is to try to be consistent around grabbing those students that are coming from school or are unexcused absences.
I don't know.
Vinnie?
So it becomes, we were just making sure we are understanding, like, we're hearing how you're explaining it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it becomes a pass-fail, so a pass becomes, to use old school language, for us old people, D minus.
So Vinnie, here's the
Pass,
problem though, here's the
right?
problem, what this reads is, these grades will be represented as a pass, and then in parentheses, P equals 65%, or fail, parentheses, F equals 59%.
Oh, I see
So-
what you're saying.
I guess I'm not understanding, because to me.
Because if a kid got a 60, he would pass. So why would it be 65%? That makes no
Because
sense.
we have a mandatory attendance policy as well that states that you have to be in school, you can't miss X number of days of school.
Yeah, but nobody's making the argument about
No,
that.
yeah.
The question is the numbers here, we don't understand
Yeah,
why,
that might be, I think it's supposed
It
to
might be a typo.
You think it's a 60?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take it as, we'll move it as a motion for the 60.
that would make sense.
Because this thing has been going around for so long.
It's been moved so many
It just
times
needs
that-
to be
Well, there's
done.
fairness to ourselves, it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
because what I'm thinking in my head is
See,
if
we
I had a
are smart.
62,
Right,
I wouldn't technically be a P or an F because I'm in that weird
It should be a
right,
60.
yeah, no, you are absolutely
It
right.
should be.
Yeah, there's a line of demarcation.
The pass,
Should be a 60.
pass should
I
be
think-
60.
60 or
was
better.
that-
Right.
60 or 59 also.
I think people were thinking of that kind of what it equates to when you look at the letter grades.
Okay.
Of that 62 being a D.
Should it be a
minus.
60, not a 65?
Can I ask
And then
a clarifying
59 is
Does that make sense,
Sure.
right? If you get 60 or better, you pass. 59 or lower, you fail.
Fail.
Really, no one should get an F for fail, they would get their number grade, because anything below a 59 is, you get, the grade will stand.
Right, that's what it said. If the actual grade was lower than 59, that grade will stand.
Right.
Also, I'll throw
Okay.
out there that somebody with more than 5 unexcused absences and lower than 59 doesn't really care what they got. Quite
Fair.
honestly.
All right. So now,
Before you vote though, because I want clarity on this, because it's been going on. Nicole, what are you saying in terms of, what do you think?
like a smirk on
I like you enough where I can just ask you directly. What are you saying? We
So
wanna resolve this.
if a student has an 82 in the quarter, and they're able to do their work, but they have 6 unexcused absences, that 82 then goes to an F.
Goes to a
No, to
A.
repeat.
P,
Not an F.
yes.
But instead of getting an 82, they get a 65 in their GPA.
Or P. Yeah.
Yeah,
which
but
then
they're-
equates
Got
to.
it.
You know what I
So
mean?
there's two
But they're
different,
being penalized because they're not coming to school.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Because they're
But-
unexcused.
Right, instead of just saying,
In every
giving
subject.
them no
that
opportunity,
quarter.
because you can get, what used to happen is you could have an A, for example, right? But if you miss, I don't know, 10 days, and they were completely unexcused, you just blew them off.
So,
You wouldn't
So I
get
thought
credit,
we talked about
Alright,
this, because
so
we
we
didn't
did.
like that,
Unexcused.
right?
right?
I don't remember
We didn't
ever
like
voting
that.
for that.
No, we did
We
not
didn't,
like
right?
that.
I thought that we disagreed that we should do it.
Exact-
but-
I remember we went back and forth
Can we
over this.
table
because
this?
we
Can we
did-
table this?
We'll table
Yeah.
it.
Let's table this, Sharon.
We've been tabled for 9 months. We might as well keep tabling it. Yes, we will table. Thank
We
you.
need more information on that, because I don't think I'm okay with
I
that.
actually, as I was looking at this, I'm having weird thoughts about the legality of this. The idea that you are changing a grade because of attendance, not because of the
Right.
actual academics.
Yeah.
I gotta
Yeah,
look
that
at
doesn't make
And
any
I
sense.
think originally when we had this conversation, the question was, are we just incentivizing someone not to do well?
Right.
Because they can't really get their grades, so they might as well just not show up at all. All right, anyways, table.
Can't we figure out another way to put something else with absences instead of a grade? Like, we gotta get, I don't like any of that
Well, you
connected.
got a couple different things going on, right? Remember, you got GPAs, and determining a GPA requires a number, right? You've got, and a letter grade, and then you've got report cards that have a letter grade, but a teacher in front of them has a number that becomes a letter grade. So, and we're also trying to, so what happens is if you have between a 70 and a 79, C minus to C plus, right? 70 to 72 is C minus, 73 to 76 is C, 78, 77, 78, 79 is C plus. All of those have an impact on a student's overall GPA.
So Joe, I remember this now because I remember at the time thinking about Malia and her GPA and the fact that she was applying to colleges, et cetera. And I thought that we were pretty patently against this because the idea that we were gonna kind of screw somebody's GPA and possibly like prevent them from going to college, et cetera, over absences was an issue with the school committee.
Yeah, we need to look at minutes and figure what's going on.
Yeah, I'll pull them out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think, back to Nicole's point, I'm pretty sure now, reading this, it would be based on, the 65 would be based on the GPA. So if a kid had a 70, missed their,
Then they have the
it would be cued in under 65.
Yes.
Yes.
If they were cued in as a 62 and got a P, it should still stay as a 62 and a P. It shouldn't be bumped up to a 65. Maybe?
And you just rewarded them for not coming.
So let's just get more, let's just
I'll get you some more
clarity.
information, and also I'll pull the minutes and all that stuff too.
Okay.
The only other thing I had today was I realized coming here that it's Carolyn's last meeting. Carolyn. Yeah, it's been fun. For most of it. Oh, look at that, look at that. That's for you, Carolyn.
Carolyn doesn't like pomp and circumstance, so
No.
this is good.
I
That's what she
know.
made
it's
sure.
neither pomp nor circumstance.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for
Thank you.
everything.
It is.
Thank you.
Been tremendous.
Been great.
Ride off into the sunset and enjoy your
Yes,
time.
I
You lucky
will.
dog, you.
Lucky dog. All right, do we have a
Thank you.
motion, anything else? Anybody know? Okay, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Look at you, Nick.
4.
All those in favor? Aye. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.